It's 4 o'clock on Thursday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi's Quarantini Happy Hour. Woo! Man, I love that music. And thank you, fake band. Thank you, fake audience. Hello, real audience. Let's see where you guys are. There you are. All right, let's see who we've got in the chat room so far. We've got Akira Kenyon, who was first in today. Dan Weber, Darren Fletcher, Music Mike, hello. Greg Carosa, Darren Moss, Martin Gravel, Andre Stepanian, Dean Turner. Man, you guys are loyalists. I love the fact that I get to hang out with you guys every day. As we get closer and closer to the day where we are all given the you can go back to work thumbs up, I think about not doing these every day, and I will miss you guys. I've got to say. Obviously, we will still see each other on Mondays, but I just don't know if I could do this 5 days a week again for the rest of my life. Today was the first day where I actually felt some sense of cabin fever. Not loneliness so much as just like slightly blasé, a little bluesy. And I figured out why. Hello, Bob Gunnerfelt, Patrick Adams, Christopher Jones, Rick Cabot. I think that the reason that I'm feeling just a little blue today, I'll talk about this shirt. Hey, John. I'll talk about the shirt in a second. Hello, Wind Chimes. Hello, Nancy. I think it's the lack of gophers. I think it's been close to a week now, maybe even slightly more than a week, since I've had any new gopher mounds pop up, and any gopher hello, Marcus and Lou Lewis. Yeah, it's been around a week that I've done any gopher spotting or gopher relocation. That kept me so busy for so long, you know. I mean, it was something to do all the time, and so yeah, no more gophers. And the coyote hasn't been here in like a week either. I'm wondering if if somebody else in the neighborhood hired a live trapper, or if it moved on to greener pastures with more gophers. I don't know. I did see a bunny rabbit in the backyard yesterday. I was thinking, wow, that would be a tasty treat. Not for me, for the coyote. So yes, about the shirt, you can always tell when it's laundry day. This shirt, that is like a 1995 vintage shirt that we made maybe a dozen or two of, and I think they all went to staff members, maybe some screeners, I don't know, but this one, I don't think, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was ever released to the public. But remember back in the day, everything was about being solicited or unsolicited, and we just thought that was funny as hell when we came up with it. Yeah, this shirt is a pretty pristine condition, considering that it's like, you know, gosh, what? How many years old is this thing? 20 years old or something? Anyway, yeah, I don't, you know, it's probably been washed once or twice. I don't think. I think I had like 2 or 3 of these, and I wore them to go fishing, and you know, knowing that if I got fish goop on it, it wouldn't matter. Hey, Robbie Hancock, how are you? Glenn Letts. Let's see, Glenn Letts says, maybe instead of doing the show 5 days a week, perhaps you could get guest hosts like Johnny Carson was famous for. Maybe guest 2 days a week. I don't know, just an idea from a newbie. You're not that much of a newbie anymore, Glenn. You've been hanging out here for weeks already. You know, I mean, some people found this to be offensive when we came out with them. There were a couple members of staff like, oh man, you can't wear that out in public. I think I actually gave, hey Cass, hey Ken, gave a couple of these out to some of my favorite A&R people. if I'm not mistaken, I'll say Marshall Altman from Columbia was one of the recipients of this shirt, and he looked at it like, "Oh, cool, thanks, man," and then probably used it to wash his car. I don't think he was a fan. Um, Glenn says, already have 3 returns under my belt. Well, you may get a lot more, but you know what? As all the so-called old timers in the room would tell you, it takes a lot of returns to find your feet and get to the point where you're getting a lot of forwards. So just hang in there. Um, I do have cedar planks. I have some little cedar planks that hang on hanger wires that are in the closet and spaced like every foot in between stuff. And believe it or not, I do hang most of my t-shirts. Um, I didn't know there was a commercial, You Bet Your Sweet Asper Cream. Oh man, Peter Rahill giving advice out here saying, great advice actually to Glenn Letts, saying 3 returns, that's just 3 less ways to do it wrong. Yep, absolutely. Um, Marcus says, how many returns does it take to screw in a light bulb? Robbie Hancock says, yes, returns are the best education you can get. Hey, Betty Anderson, how are you? Joseph Alonzo. We don't have any taxi t-shirts for sale. Maybe once we're back in the I guess we don't need to be back in the office to do it, but every now and then we'll do a run of t-shirts and bring them to the road rally. And frankly, for years we only took cash. We didn't have a credit card swiper dedicated for the t-shirts, and we couldn't commingle the t-shirt money with the book money and blah 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 for accounting purposes or tax purposes. So they sold slowly, and just didn't get around to it last year. John Pearson says he had 60 returns. Gunnerfeld says he had 60 as well. Marcus says a taxi return for me is the equivalent of a publisher pitching your song that just didn't place. Doesn't mean it isn't great. That's so true. Oftentimes the number one reason stuff doesn't get forwarded from taxi is because it's just the wrong thing. It's not what the listing asked for. Could be the genre was wrong. Could be, the classic pitching mistake from new members is, I think Marcus and his mom were talking about it yesterday. Asked for a song about, I don't know, liberty, being free. And somebody has a song that says, I stood by the Liberty Bell. Well, yeah, but it's not really what they're looking for. So that didn't get a forward. But it could be a great song. So that's the reason, the number one reason that stuff doesn't get forwarded. And the number one reason it doesn't get used out in the wild by supervisors is just doesn't work in the scene, doesn't work against picture. So there you go. Happy Ron, how are you? Happy Ron says he's cleaning out the apartment, getting ready for a move, getting rid of a bunch of books, and keeping his taxi books. Good job on that. Blue Day Dew says, hi, not a member, but I really enjoy your shows. Well, thanks for watching. You don't have to be a member to watch them. Robbie Hancock reminding us, I think maybe Marcus said something earlier, write, submit, forget, repeat. For those of you who are new and have not heard that phrase yet, that was a phrase that was concocted by taxi members many, many years ago. It's like wash, rinse, repeat. Well, this is write, submit, forget, repeat. Once something, you make the submission, just keep moving forward. Don't sit there and wait to find out if that thing's going to get a forward or if it got forwarded, if you're going to get a deal offer on it. Just keep cranking out the music. Everything else just falls into place. Joseph Alonzo wants to know, do you guys like when Michael plays submissions? I do. Pierre says 200 submissions since May of 2018. You've been active with 40 forwards. So, yeah, not so bad. Darren Moss says, past 12 months through Taxi, I got a bunch of returns and a handful of forwards in one deal. Thanks, Michael. You're welcome. Anyway, I'm very excited to tell you that on Monday's regular Taxi TV, I am going to be joined by none other than Mr. Steve Barden, the author of this wonderfully informative book, Writing Production Music for TV by Steve Barden, The Road to Success. And Steve, assuming all the tech, we'll check out the tech probably over the weekend, but it sounds like he's got enough upload bandwidth to handle the split screen remote. And what we're going to do is he is going to create a what I personally like to refer to as a sci-fi lab type instrumental cue, you know, like the stuff you would hear on CSI when they show people looking at fibers under a microscope or anything under a microscope. And those are very popular right now for all the upcoming post-pandemic TV shows and such that are going to be coming out. So Steve Barden is going to create one of those in 90 minutes from start to finish. Hopefully he does a little bit of like picking his sounds and stuff before the show. Maybe he'll audition some sounds live, but 90 minutes, even for somebody as talented and highly experienced and just, really, really good at this as he is, 90 minutes would be a pretty quick time to do one of these. Music Mike says, yes, Steve Barden with a much needed sci-fi lesson. And hello, Bria. Bria posted you can get Steve's book here, and she just posted a link where you can get the book. Yeah, it should be fun. I really like Barden. He's, one of many members that I've become like real friends with over the years. He lives here in LA. Well, actually, he lives in like a faraway suburb on the south side of LA, probably like in traffic, a 2-hour drive from where I'm sitting right now. But I think Steve has probably done 3 or 4 episodes of Taxi TV. He's been on a panel or 2 at the Road Rally. He's done some mentoring. He's a great guy. And I remember years ago, he came, we had a legit TV composer, scoring composer named Kevin Kiner came, and I'm thinking back, it's probably been like 6-7 years or so now. And I had Kevin Kiner actually score a scene live in the ballroom. And Steve met him, and they became friends. And at some point, Kevin Kiner reached out to him and said, I've got more work than I can handle. I think he was working on Star Wars, Clone Wars, and something else. And he hired Steve to do some cues, I think in the style that Kevin Kiner himself would have done them for that show. So I think that was a pretty high compliment to Steve, that Kiner trusted him, number one, and number two, trusted him to be able to mimic a style that would be consistent with everything else that was in the show. So hats off to Steve. Look forward to seeing him on the show Monday. Hopefully the tech gods will be working in our favor, and we will be able to just basically, I'll introduce him, probably give out his bio, chit-chat for a minute or two, and then let him rip as far as putting together a sci-fi lab-style cue. So while I was thinking about Steve, I picked up his book about an hour ago, because honestly, I had no plan for today's show. Frank Perry says, hello, I'm new to Taxi and just got one of my tracks forwarded. Is that a good thing for a first-time member? Yeah, absolutely. It's always great when you get something forwarded. don't let it trick you into thinking that because you got one, you'll get many more after it. It can be a heartbreaking process. I don't want you to get overly excited, but look, every forward is a good thing. And please, write, submit, forget, repeat. Don't sit by the phone or your computer waiting for an email or a phone call, because the person on the other end, on the receiving end, is getting material from a few sources, maybe many sources. It could be a library thing where they're only working with us looking for stuff, who knows. But a forward is a forward. It's just, it's like, throwing a seed out there in the garden. Maybe it'll grab hold and sprout. Maybe it won't. But you know what? You got to keep getting those seeds out there, because the more seeds you got, the more plants will sprout over time. It is definitely a marathon and not a sprint, as many of our taxi members know. Music Mike says, very true. I got a forward on my first submission and then was humbled. Yep. Marcus says, it means you're at the bar. There you go. I think he means the quality bar, not the woohoo kind of bar. Bob Gunnerfeld says, ooh, I've got to shut that down. Be right with you guys. Okay, that solves that problem. I'm back. All right. Yeah, that was a great show last night with Marcus and Sherry. I can always count on them to give it to you straight and give you a lot of great information, and they did in fact do that. Joseph Alonso says, a forward lets you know you have the talent, that you are good. Yeah, absolutely. Bob Gunnerfeld, what is WS? Oh, write, submit, forget, and repeat is the desktop on my main computer. There you go. You know what? I keep forgetting to call Jason Bloom. Hang on a second. I am going to pull out my calendar and write call Jason Bloom. Okay. It's in the book. It shall happen. Hopefully he will be available. Anyway, so I pulled out this book, Writing Production Music for TV by Steve Barden. And I was just thumbing through, thinking, are there any topics in here that could be interesting for today's show? And I ran across him talking about music conferences, and he lists off several of the conferences, the Taxi Road Rally included in there, which I was happy to see. He says there are many organizations holding smaller conferences throughout the year all across the U.S., Canada, and Europe. Besides these various conferences, look up meetup groups in your area. These are not groups for hot singles, although that would be cool for those of you who are single. Only hot people are allowed to go, though. These groups are for industry professionals to meet and network with. When you attend an industry event, your goal is to meet and have a conversation with somebody in the industry that can help you move your career to the next level. Sure, why not? How will you do this? Do you have a plan? It's surprising how many people don't. And the reason this got my attention was that yesterday Sherry and Marcus were talking about this very thing. And Steve goes on to describe exactly what they said. Do you have a plan? Are you comfortable walking up to a stranger and striking up a conversation without sounding aggressive or desperate? This kind of approach is akin to a cold call sales call. It rarely turns out well. So yeah, you know what? If you blow it, don't let it freak you out. Don't, go to the rooftop of the hotel and jump off, because please, dear God, don't do that. It's like dating. You gotta ask a lot of people out before somebody says yes, or before you find the right match. Let's start with who you will meet. What do you know about this person? Other than their job title in the company they work with, what do you know about them? I assume you've selected this person to talk to because you knew that this person would be there and or on a discussion panel. If you want to make a good impression, know some significant facts about this person. Spend time ahead of the event. This is exactly what Marcus and Cherry were talking about yesterday. Spend time ahead of the event to do the research about this person's professional background. At the least, know what this person has worked on. That way you can at least mention that show as a point of discussion. If you like the show and or what they contributed to it, let them know. If you try to BS them, they will know it. Be sincere. Don't discuss something and then pretend you know something you don't. Yeah, don't ever do that because they can smell that coming. These industry professionals are at these events are in high demand. If they've just come off a panel, you can expect 20 to 30 people to surround them and try to converse with them. If you've ever experienced this, you know how annoying it is when one person monopolizes the conversation and never stops talking. I'm pausing there for a second. I got to tell you, every year when the road rally is over, we get several hundred, actually more like a few thousand photographs that our two photographers take throughout the weekend. And for about 4 years running, virtually every shot we had, because one of the mandates that I give the photographers is don't only get action shots of the panelists going, I've got a point to make, or laughing with each other. Yeah, we want action shots while the panel's going on. We always take a grip and grin shot, with all of us standing up against the backdrop after the panel's over. But then, if time allowing, and if the panelists are up for it, they'll usually go to the lip of the stage and kneel down or bend over and shake some hands and take some CDs from people, or thumb drives, or business cards. And while they're doing this, usually a gaggle of somewhere on the order of 10, 20, 30 people surrounds them. And there is inevitably somebody who just doesn't give a damn that there are 27 other people behind them that also would like to speak to this person. And it freaks me out a little bit because I know that we've got generally got 15 minutes to change the staging and get the new panelists ready to go, change whatever audio setup we've got or video set up. It's a little hard to do with the panelists hanging out on the front of the stage. And when that one person dominates the whole conversation, everybody else gets frustrated, and it's a little heartbreaking to watch. So anyway, there's one person, and frankly, I can't even think of his name right now. Very nice guy, totally nice guy, not a jerk by any stretch of the imagination. For all I know, he could be watching the show today, and he's going to show up in the chat room momentarily going, Lasco, you're a putz. This guy, every single photograph of virtually every single panel throughout every single day of every road rally for years is in virtually every shot. So it makes it really, really hard because we like to show those shots of the industry people making themselves accessible to the attendees. That's part of the charm of the road rally, It's like, yeah, you can fly to the road rally from the UK or Australia or wherever and actually meet a real player or two or five from the industry. And one of the places to meet them is after their panel, where you walk up and say, man, I love that point you made. I've been to a lot of different panels, but nobody's ever made that point before. So we like to show those moments in the newsletter and other marketing stuff that we do. And this one gentleman made it impossibly hard for me to find shots that I could use because he was in every shot. So if I had, let's say I had music supervisor John Houlihan and he's talking to some people, well, that gentleman, he had a little goatee thing going on. That guy's in the shot. And let's say, another music supervisor from that panel is 2 feet away from John Houlihan at the edge of the stage, and he's, shaking hands and taking CDs from people. And the photographer gets 3 or 4 shots of that interaction going on. The guy with the goatee is in those shots. It's incredible how many shots the guy was in. Literally, it almost blew the amount of money, which is thousands of dollars that I spend on the photographers, at least from that angle or perspective, that most of those ballroom post-panel shots had this one guy in it. So please don't be that guy. But even more importantly, Don't dominate that industry person's time. Don't hog their time, because there are all these other people behind you. There are times I've really pissed some people off where I've walked up and, like knelt down, put my hand on their shoulder and said, I don't mean to be a pain, but could you look, there's a whole bunch of other people out there that would love to talk to this person. And sometimes they shoot me the dirtiest look. It's like, dude, I've been waiting for this opportunity my whole life, and I get that. And I'm sure that they wouldn't be exaggerating to say that. But everybody else is in the same boat, so be cognizant of that. So now, back to Steve Barden's stuff in the book about this. Where was I? Oh, if you've ever experienced this, you know how annoying it can be when one person monopolizes a conversation and never stops talking. Not only are other people waiting to speak with them, you don't want to stay, but you don't want to overstay your welcome. That's not how to make a good impression. Be brief, succinct, and cordial. Yep. Walk up and say, hey, I'm Steve Barden. I was in the audience. I thought your comment about blah, blah, blah was right on the money. Just wanted to say thanks, man, for taking time away from your incredibly busy schedule to come here and educate us this weekend. It's really appreciated. Thanks. Bye. You're out of there in 15 seconds. Write that down. That was a good one I just did. That's not how to make a good impression. Yeah, said that already. Get to your point and move on. This is where we come to the 15-second elevator pitch. We all know what an elevator pitch. Actually, I'll just read Steve's thing that says what an elevator pitch is. But it's very apropos to call it an elevator pitch at the road rally, because some of the industry people actually do stay in the hotel, or they're going up to, a party somewhere, whatever. I have heard about plenty of interactions and plenty of deals that have been a result of somebody getting in the elevator at the road rally. Now, some people faced with that situation, like they get in the elevator and then an industry bigwig walks in there and it's just the two of them. And you can just imagine that poor person who, might be a little shy to begin with and is now standing in the elevator 3 feet away. Nope, this year they'll be standing 6 feet away from that person that, they've wanted to speak to somebody like this, maybe that particular person, for an entire adult lifetime. And there they are. And all of a sudden, they start sweating like the guy in the cockpit of the movie Airplane, where the sweat just starts pouring down the face. They get all nervous. Usually that turns out to be kind of a cute moment for the industry pro. They can sense that the person's scared to death and nervous, and I'm sure that they're really nice about it. Wow, Brian Howe, Bad Company frontman, R.I.P. That's not good news. Anyway, sorry to hear that. Loved Bad Company. Okay, the 15-second elevator pitch is a hypothetical scenario where you run across somebody you wanted to meet while stepping onto an elevator. Wouldn't that be into an elevator? I don't know, whatever. I would step onto an escalator and into an elevator. Just saying, Barden. We can talk about this on Monday. You don't know how far this person will travel, so you need to be quick. That's true. They could be getting off on the second floor. You better be really quick. What are you going to say? What are you going to say in that short time span that has meaning, is memorable, and covers everything you want to say? I'm sure it will never cover everything you want to say. Think of the 15-second elevator pitch as the equivalent of the 140-character limit of a Twitter tweet. In fact, Twitter is a good way to practice creating the short sales pitch, since the average tweet takes between 10 and 15 seconds to read. That's if you were in the remedial reading class. Really? Come on, Steve. 15 seconds to read a tweet? All right, we have so much to talk about on Monday. You're selling your brand. What you do as a composer, the same way you would sell a product like soap. The basic structure of the pitch is the headline followed by 3 bullet points. That's great advice. Short and succinct. If you have more time, then you can expand on the bullet points. The key is to craft your headline to be attention-grabbing. Headlines mean everything. I know that from my passionate reading of marketing books. Subject lines mean so much. The way you title stuff means so much. the first sentence means so much. The first sentence in a paragraph gets you to read the rest of the paragraph. The last sentence in a paragraph, you'll notice a lot of the marketing stuff that I send out will have a paragraph that will say, and the road rally is a life-changing experience for so many attendees. Why? Question mark. Why italicized and a question mark? Why? You've got to read the next paragraph to find out. Your goal is to keep that person engaged, keep them moving along, doing whatever it is you want them to do. In the elevator pitch scenario, you want them to get to know you in a kind of a superfluous or superficial way. But remember you with that, and you don't want to be remembered as, oh my God, that guy with the garlic breath in the elevator, or the guy that asked for my cell phone number, or the guy that says, I know your wife's name. Can I come over for dinner and we can talk about music? Yeah, don't do that. To define your headline, ask yourself, what's the single most important thing I want my listener to know about my product, my service, my brand, my idea? For example, I might say, I specialize in composing music for reality TV. That's a great one. And it's short, it's succinct. Because it includes composing music, the listener understands that I compose music. But because I emphasize specialize in reality TV, the listener understands that not only do I compose music, but I must be really good at reality TV music because it's my specialty. It also implies that I compose music in other styles for other mediums. That's good. Yep, say a short amount of words, but with an implication to convey more meaning. That's great. For my bullet points, I might include, I work with clients to provide them with quirky styles they don't have access to. Clients love the level of realism in my orchestral sounds. You don't want to brag. You're trying to sell your services, so you want to make it enticing. You're selling the sizzle, not the steak. After you've crafted the perfect pitch, write it down and practice it. I know that sounds corny, but Steve is not wrong. Because you're going to be nervous when, if you have that moment at the bar and it's going to be noisy in the bar area, or you have that quiet, intimate moment, well, not that kind of intimate, in an elevator with somebody from the industry, you're going to be nervous, so it's like muscle memory, man. Practice that move, in quotes, over and over and over again, so that when the time comes, you don't really have to think about it. It just kind of rolls off the tongue. You also don't want to recite it too fast, or you'll end up sounding like Ralphie from A Christmas Story, who wanted the official Red Ryder carbine action 200-shot range model air rifle. 200-shot range model air rifle. I want that. Every boy wants an air rifle. With a compass in the stock. Now that's when you know you're cool. When you've got a compass in the stock of your air rifle. That's in case you get lost, in the mountains, and you've got your air rifle with you to fend off wolves and bears. It might make them go, ouch. But you've got the compass in the stock so you can find your way home. That's a surefire way to shoot your eye out. I'm adding to Barden's astute observations here. Everybody loves to hear about him or herself. So, if you get in the elevator, you'd be really wise to know that if this is a music supervisor that has worked on this movie, or let's take a reality TV show music supervisor. And you get in the elevator and in walks that person and the door's shut and it's just the two of you. Hi, my name is Steve Barden. I'm a reality show instrumental composer. My specialty is dramedy cues. I know that you work on the Kardashians and you guys use a ton of dramedy. Would it be okay if I send you some of my stuff to listen to? I'll keep it short, like 3 minutes, a little sampler. They're going to say yes to that. Even better would be to say, hi, my name's Steve Barden. I'm a reality show instrumental composer. I specialize in dramedy. How did you get started in the industry, and how did you end up becoming a music supervisor? It seems like such an unusual job for somebody, until you know the industry. It's like a kid would never think, I want to grow up and be a music supervisor. How did you end up doing that? And they will start talking. And now you've got a conversation going, and I'll bet you dollars to donuts that they don't get out on the second floor. They'll probably take the ride with you. If you're really smart, you will stay on the 11th or 12th floor of the hotel. That gets you, it's a little pricier to stay up there, but it gets you access to the executive lounge where you get the free coffee and so on. And if you're really slick, you could say to that music supervisor, hey, you want to go grab a beer with me in the executive lounge? My treat. They're liable to say yes. And I would add to that, oh, look at that, it's 4:30. I think it's happy hour up there. There's some free snacks. Nobody's going to turn down a beer and free snacks. So now you've got a music supervisor going with you, and they're going to tell you their life story. I can almost guarantee you the end of that conversation is going to be, wow, man, this is nice hanging out with you. By the way, you said you do dramedy, right? Yeah, I do. Do you have a demo or something, a reel, anything you want to give me? I do. Here you go. Thanks. So now they've got a good impression of you. Hopefully they like you. They feel comfortable with you. They can sense, they can tell if you're professional or not, if you act in a professional manner. And it sounds like you did, Steve Barden. So that's how to make the play right there. Hey, Justin Mather, welcome to the big show. So for those of you who are experienced members, I was going to say, do you guys want to chime in and say, yeah, Michael, you got that right? John Pearson's already chimed. He says, that's how it's done. Man, I hope the rally is on this year. I was on the phone yet again last night for, 45 minutes with the rally sponsor guy, and he was telling me that all those sponsors are just dying to find out if the rally is on this year because they got to spend their budget somewhere. So assuming that we do have a road rally this year, I think it's going to be well sponsored. By the way, you know what? I want to ask you about something. Speaking of the road rally and sponsors, I felt a little bit like I was doing a deal with the devil, and I mean that in the kindest way. One of the things that has bothered me about one of the other large-scale conferences in the past, and I've gone to it many times, is that most of the classes seem to be sponsor-driven sessions. Those like 60-minute, I don't know if they're even an hour long, but let's say they're 60-minute sessions. At the road rally, we typically have like 75 to sometimes as many as 90 or more different breakout classes that happen on the second floor of the hotel while the big panels are going on in the ballroom down on the main floor. Generally speaking, with very few exceptions, those classes are organic. They are people who just want to teach you stuff, and they are not sponsors who want to sell you stuff. However, at this other event, and there are others beside that particular event that I'm thinking of, almost all of the breakout classes are sponsored sessions, and I've gone and walked into many of them over the years, and it's like a product demo, and they're selling you something. And I mean, if it's something that let's say it's a string library, an orchestral string library, and you've been interested in this brand, and they're demoing how their library sounds and works, you wouldn't be offended by that. But if their headline for their class was a little deceptive, like how to record a string library, and you get there and the whole thing is a sales pitch, you would be a little bothered by that. Then again, if it were a great presentation and you learned stuff, maybe you would be less bothered. Anyway, last year at the rally, we did have more sponsors than ever before because this gentleman's very good at bringing in sponsors. And I actually get to talk about, I actually get to approve or disapprove of sponsors. So we only let people in that we think are going to bring product or services in that you guys would genuinely be interested in. So we allowed a few of those sponsor-driven classes last year, and I did not get one complaint from anybody. But we also talked to the sponsors in advance and told them, look, what we have seen work at the Road Rally is if you've got something to sell, is give them 3/4 or more of the class has to be educational, with real educational value about things they want to learn about. And at the end, you say, and by the way, the string library we used today obviously was the one that we sell. So I'm handing out like postcards or flyers or whatever, so you guys can go check it out online. If you have any questions about anything I talked about today or the product, I'll be hanging out here for 15 minutes till the next thing comes in, or you can catch me out in the hallway or anywhere. Catch me in an elevator. Did it feel okay last year with the few that we had? I'm trying to remember some specifically, but I didn't get one complaint. So I'm guessing that finding that balance of, this is a paid for sponsored class, which brings money into taxi, frankly, and we like money. Like I said, there have been years where I've come out of pocket. The biggest deficit I ever racked up at a road rally was $25,000. That hurt. About 3 weeks after the road rally, writing a check for $25,000. Most of the time we make a couple thou, we lose a couple thou, so overall it's a wash. But, I put a lot of work into it. The staff puts a lot of work into it. It's a big deal event. And if we could make 10 grand on the deal by having more sponsors there, great. And the way the sponsors want to work is by having sponsored classes. So, were you okay with how it was last year? Any responses to Tiamo's presentation? No, other than I had two people that asked me if I could introduce them to him. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say no. One person said to me, look, that guy's really slick. It was a sales presentation, but the information was so incredibly good, I didn't mind. Frankly, I stayed in the room for his whole thing. I thought his presentation was great. Yeah, he's slick. He's like a televangelist up there. I wish I was that good on a stage. But you know what? His points were really well taken. I've got to say, I was really impressed with what he was selling. Robert says, no problem with it, Michael. Everybody has to eat. Yeah, but I don't want to be a prostitute to earn my living. Let's see. Dan Weber says, I knew you were, that's not about me. Darren Moss says, if the title of the class is clear and accurate that it's a sales pitch, I can't see an issue, only if it's misleading. Yep, that's a good point. Catherine Kenty says, yep, 25K is how you throw a party. John Pearson says he thought it was awesome last year, I'm assuming no issues. Ken Bearden says, how about a show about the perseverance of those taxi members who have been at it for years, have had some forwards but no placements? I'm sure we've talked about that on stage. It's funny. I don't only put people up on the stage that are like wildly successful. Yeah. Do we have a lot of successful members up there? Yeah. I want them to tell you how they did it so that you can learn and follow in their footsteps. But we'll put people on a panel like that and say, this guy's only been a member for a couple of years and wasn't getting forwards, and now he's gotten a few. So what made the tide turn for you? So we try to approach it from all angles. Alex Dillon says, I think for aspiring artists and teens, it's a must to go. We hear that a lot. Thank you for saying that. Element Studio says, took me 6 months to get my first forward. Marcus says, it's all about what we can learn from each other. This guy last night once again brought up, if you're not allowed to hold the road rally, or if you get the thumbs up, like 3 weeks before, and you don't have the run-up time to pull it off, and you don't have a road rally in person this year, would you consider doing a virtual rally? And I said, no, I'm sorry, but the magic of the road rally is you guys. It's you guys in the hallways, in the elevator, in the bar, in the ballroom. It's really, so much about the members. It really is. I don't want us to have to miss a year, but if we have to for our safety and our health, hopefully our mayor comes around. I have a feeling that he will loosen up the restrictions. I mean, the curve, as it's called, has flattened. I heard this morning while I was getting ready for work, getting ready for work, if you call that ready, that there are cities where the number of cases is still going up, and sadly the number of deaths. But you got to remember that there's more and more testing going on, so more and more cases are being identified. I'll bet you, a year from now, maybe even 3 to 6 months from now, we're going to find out that a lot of us had it and never even knew it. Frankly, I have a little bit of a feeling that I might have had it before I got on the plane. I flew to Israel on February 17th, and I was sick the week before I left and actually got a Z-Pack, a azithromycin. And I remember saying to somebody, I can't remember who, maybe it's my wife, I said, I've never been sick quite like this. It just felt different. And I do remember being unbelievably tired. I remember having, I think I stayed home from work one day actually, before the antibiotics kicked in. And I remember saying, I can't even peel myself off the bed, but it really didn't last all that long. It was like 2 or 3 days. That's right. Justin Mather said I had a bad cough for a while back then. I did. Yeah, Marcus says a lot of people had symptoms in November, December, and January. Betty Anderson says being immersed in crowds of knowledgeable people is what the rally's all about. Happy Ron says, I think I had it earlier than it supposedly came here to the U.S. Robert Vellacourt says, same here. Yeah, I think that, apparently it's a lot easier to get tested now. One of my friends just told me the other day, they're doing tests in a parking lot like a mile from your house. I haven't driven over there yet. I think a lot of us are going to find out that we've got the antibody, that we probably had it. Remember when we were kids? Well, I don't know how old all you guys are, but when I was a kid, if one of your friends had the mumps, that kid's mom would call, or the measles, would call the other moms. I remember I got sent to a kid's house. His name was Johnny Roll. I kid you not, Johnny Roll. He grew up to be a marijuana addict. He could roll a fatty. Anyway, I could remember where he lived. I could remember my mom being on the phone with his mom. We were in the same Cub Scout troop together, and I think that our moms were like the two moms that ran the Cub Scout troop. Anyway, I got sent over to his house along with the other kids. There were like 8 of us in our Cub Scout troop, and we all played down in his basement all day, and sure enough, it was either measles or mumps. We all had it within 3 days. Windchime says, I was sick for 2 weeks before quarantine. I wonder if that's what it was. Marcus says, wait, marijuana addict? Pierre says tests are mandatory in the Hong Kong airport. Yeah, Rick Cabot says anybody who's at NAM had to have at least have been exposed. Probably very true. Betty says she took forever to recover, but went straight into planning for her granddaughter's wedding. Well, mazel tov, Betty. All right, so let's see. What do we have? Wow, we've only got 11 minutes left. What else do you guys want to talk about? I don't call it the virus so much anymore. I call it the COVID now. Apparently, the COVID is part of the slang. Songs from a Headband says, I'm sad the Coronado concerts in the park have been canceled. Amazing world-class artists, musicians, and bands perform here, but not this year. Marcus had swollen glands for a whole month. You know what? So did I. I actually ended up refilling the Z-Pack and actually took a package of it with me on the Israel trip. And when I landed, I just started taking again, which I know is really bad to take, like a double dose of antibiotics within days of each other. But yeah, my glands, they didn't hurt. I didn't feel sick other than being really tired. I was really tired when I got to Israel, but that was jet lag, I think. But yeah, my glands were like golf balls. They didn't hurt, but they were just big. So I just said, what the hell, man? I took it again. Some call it Rona. There you go. Marcus says, call it Coco V. What are we doing tomorrow? I don't know. Honestly, Joseph, I was actually thinking about not doing a show tomorrow just because I don't have any ideas for a show tomorrow. And frankly, I could use a day off, not a day off from Taxi. I've got to edit all the listings going out over the weekend. But, these shows don't take me that much prep time, maybe an hour out of my day and the hour that we're on the show together. Wow, it's 4:51. Time is flying today. If you guys come up with a great idea for tomorrow's show and post it in the comments after this is archived up on YouTube in like 10 minutes after we're off air, if I see some good stuff in there, I will show up and do a show tomorrow. I just don't want to have to spend even 10 minutes prepping because Friday is my second busiest day of the week. And by the way, we do have, I think for Sunday's batch, we're going to send out all three of those listings that we're running right now for songs for ads post Rona. The post-virus, post-pandemic ads that are sure to be coming out. They're already out, but there are going to be a lot more of them. And those listings, we're so excited. What we're going to do is actually put together compilations from you guys, 3 different compilations, and then send them out to a bunch of ad agencies. So if somebody is fortunate enough to get their thing in a big TV commercial, you won't have to split the money with a publisher. Not that we're doing it for that reason, but that's one of the benefits of this. So yeah, Sunday's batch of 3 listings is going to be a repeat of those 3 things because we think there's probably a lot of great music out there, and we want to get just like killer stuff on these compilations and have the ad agencies go, whoa, there you go. These guys are proactive. They stuck to a single topic that's very important to what we're working on right now. Awesome. This way they don't have to go through music libraries looking for stuff that could work. They're going to end up with batches of stuff that will work. Joseph Alonso says, I love hearing other members' music. We know, Joseph, we know. Wow, people are saying, take the break. How will you know if tomorrow's happening? Watch Twitter and watch Facebook. The Taxi Twitter and the Taxi Facebook. Bria, could you post links to those in the chat room? What did Akira say that people are agreeing with? Darren Moss says, aiming for mid-December, mid-January for a rally could buy you a bit more time. While that's true, then we get into holiday travel. So December is just a terrible month. People do not have going to a convention on their mind in December. January is not out of the question. The problem is then we only have, a short amount of time, like 9 or 10 months between that rally and the next one. And trust me, it takes like 3 months just to come back to semi-normal. Joseph Alonso says, can we talk about Gophers? No, the Gophers have all left town. What if they catch the coyote? The coyote hasn't been around. Michael, do you know Jamie Warren? No, I don't, Jesse. Related to Diane Warren? I know Diane a little. Songs from a Headband says, I think the rally's held at a perfect time of year. I agree. Um, Cass says, pick a recent listing, play all the forwards. It's always eye-opening. Problem is, that takes a lot of work on Bria or Ariana's part, and I don't know that we could get that together for tomorrow by starting today. Do a show about you hanging out with Clapton. I mean, I've mentioned it. I showed the picture the other day. I've told several of the stories. It's not like I've got an hour's worth of those stories to tell. And plus, I mean, there's kind of a thing. I mean, there are certain things that people don't want divulged. Believe me, I've seen a lot and done a lot that nobody would want to talk about in any sort of public way. There's a level of trust when you're working in the studio with any artist, let alone artists at that level. I don't want to be like somebody who's worked in Washington D.C. and the White House and then does a tell-all book. That's not my style. Darren Moss says, can somebody send some gophers over to Michael? Jesse says he met Canadian Jamie Warren through Ralph Murphy. He's a golfer. Not a gopher, a golfer. Nope, I haven't met him. Ralph introduced me to a lot of people, and we've actually had a lot of industry people join us on the golf course. What's the name of the PRO in Ireland? IMRO. The gentleman who is the CEO of IMRO golfed with Ralph and I. Oh, you know what? That was a foursome. Okay, so we had the IMRO gentleman who was super good. Man, that dude was good enough to go on the tour. Really nice guy, too. Really, really nice guy. And who's the chairman of ASCAP? Paul, why am I drawing? I'm terrible with names. Paul, the mega hit songwriter who's very short in stature. Why can I not think about it? Paul. Here, where's my phone? Oh, Paul Williams, yeah. So it was Ralph, Paul Williams, the CEO of IMRO, and myself. Now, here's the funny thing is, so the CEO of IMRO is a great golfer. Like I said, the guy is just, you look at him when he his backswing is perfect. You can see the muscles in his back, and he's just perfect. He looks like a statue of a golfer. And man, he smacked the crap out of that ball and sent it flying down the fairway, nice and straight, almost every time. Ralph was a reasonably good golfer. Goofy as hell on a golf course. Tons of fun, but a pretty good golfer. Not wow, what a great golfer, but nice shot, Ralph. And we all took joy when Ralph hit a good one. You could see the love of the game in his eyes. I am not a great golfer, but I do tend to hit him straight up the fairway, not that long, I don't know, 150, 175 yards, but I hit him straight up the fairway more often than not. My chipping game is pro level. I am really good on a 20, 30 yard chip up onto the green. People are always like, whoa, dude, that's your thing. It is. Putting is where it falls apart for me. And I took lessons a few years ago and did 2 complete days of lessons with the guy just working on my putting, and I got a new putter. I suck at putting, so I blow the game. And then there's Paul Williams. Paulie was hysterically funny. First of all, one of the nicest, most genuine guys you could ever want to meet. Really funny. A sardonic sense of humor with a golden heart behind it. But just not a great golfer. He knows it. And, you are allowed to make fun of him to a point on a golf course. Ralph actually had a title for the kind of golf that Paul Williams plays. Whack blank golf. And the second word starts with an F. And he called it that because Paul would whack the ball, and then almost every time the F word would come out of his mouth. So Ralph called it whack F golf. And yeah, anyway. Golf is the great equalizer, and it's a great way, man. If you play golf, even if you're like a mediocre golfer, and you meet somebody in the industry and you find out that they golf, try and get in a golf course with them, because you get 4 or 5 hours of undivided attention hanging out with that person. And it's the great equalizer. I can't tell you how many industry people I've built relationships with. And like I said, I rarely golf. I'm not that good. I'm good enough that people don't laugh at me most of the time. All right. Well, as they say in therapy, our time has come to an end. Anyway, enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Now I'm feeling guilty, like I should do a show tomorrow. But, I'm kind of hoping that tomorrow maybe, because I have been working, not so much this week, but every other week since we've been on working remotely. My wife wasn't home. My kids weren't home, so I had nothing else to do. I would work 12 to 16 hours a day for like 6 weeks straight, pretty much 7 days a week. I think I had 3 days off in 6 weeks or something. So this week I'm cruising a little bit more and thinking about tomorrow, if I can get the listings edited and a few more things out of my way, that I might actually like take off at 2 o'clock tomorrow and just jump in my car and drive over the mountains to Malibu, or go grocery shopping. I don't know, but just have a little me time tomorrow. But, check Twitter, check Facebook, and we will... Wow, everybody's saying take a break. All right, you know what? Let's consider that firm. Tomorrow, no Quarantini happy hour. I am going to take a break. Thank you all for being so gracious, and I will see you Monday for what I'm sure will be an incredibly good show with our dear friend, an extremely talented guy and a great teacher, Mr. Steve Barden, teaching you how to do a cue. Somebody asked the other day, what do you guys mean when you talk about a developmental arc? You're going to find out on Monday's show. So with that, I bid you all... Ooh, almost dropped the band on the floor. That would be a disaster. Don't have a backup band. Oh, I do have it recorded on my phone though. See you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining me all week. Bye-bye. Bye, you guys.